oil has evolved into an essential resource for industrial progress, despite the fact that the Industrial Revolution humanity into the age of machines. Even the kerosene, gasoline, and plastics we use every day are byproducts of the production of petroleum. Because oil is so integral to human existence, there is a belief that controlling oil equates to controlling economic resources. However, China just took a decision that astonished the whole globe. China found an offshore oil deposit in the South China Sea that had 850 million tons of oil, but instead of using the oil field itself, it gave South Korea the mining rights. We are all aware of how far the United States has advanced technologically in terms of oil extraction. The United States is extremely irate with China for their practice of refusing to turn over oil fields to them so that they can take the maximum resources. Therefore, the U.S. claimed in the media that China was squandering resources. Is there a bargain behind China's decision to allow South Korea to develop the oil fields? Next, allow me to explain China's peculiar custom to you. Before we start, subscribe to Chin News to watch about all the secret projects you didn't know about. So, let's begin. Oil resources, the lifeblood of contemporary industry, are crucial to a nation's growth since they are linked to human social progress. A nation's economic progress will be hampered as long as the price of crude oil on the world market varies, which will also have an impact on people's daily lives. China, which has the largest population in the world naturally, has a far higher need than other nations have for oil resources. China's oil reserves are merely 25.6 billion barrels despite its 9.6 million square kilometer area. Despite the size of this statistic, this oil resource is actually fairly little. For instance, the United States now possesses proven oil reserves of 61 billion barrels. Not to add that Kuwait has oil reserves that total 101.5 billion barrels, despite having a geographical size of only 1.78 square kilometers. It is clear that China has very little oil resources. Because of this, it is clear to everyone in the world that wealthy China routinely buys oil. The U.S. Department of Energy has revealed data showing that China became the world's biggest oil importer in 2013 with 282 million tons of oil imports. Now China buys 512 million tons of oil annually, directly double its previous level and making up 61% of global imports. More than 70% of the oil the Chinese government uses annually comes from imports, which is against accepted international practice. The oil reserve plan is crucial for preparing for energy crises that might happen at any time. China has thus been assessing its own oil resources for many years. A sizable oil field was recently found by China's oil exploration team in the South China Sea's Pearl River mouth region. The original estimated oil and gas reserves of this oil field are 850 million tons, which can produce 300 barrels of oil per day, according to a research by the U.S. Department of Energy. However, the Ministry of Energy estimated that this oil field had at least 8 billion tons of oil and gas reserves based on historical data. China made a startling decision just as the rest of the world started to think that China wouldn't need to purchase oil for a while. China granted other nations the ability to use its oil reserves for their own purposes. Investigations reveal that China and SK Innovation of South Korea have a long-standing arrangement to exploit this significant oil resource. According to the agreement's terms, mining rights are granted to South Korean corporations. However, there is a clear interest-sharing arrangement between the two sides. China receives 60% of oil revenues, but South Korea is only allowed to get 40%. Why doesn't China extract its own oil, even if this oil extraction arrangement appears to be quite good? Investigations reveal that China and SK Innovation of South Korea have a long-standing arrangement to exploit this significant oil resource. According to the agreement's terms, mining rights are granted to South Korean corporations. However, there is a clear interest-sharing arrangement between the two sides. China receives 60% of oil revenues, but South Korea is only allowed to get 40%, although this arrangement for oil exploration seems excellent. But if China were to extract its own oil, couldn't it earn more money? Why is China not mining it itself? Exploiting oil is not an easy task. He must use several production techniques based on the geology and environment. Drilling and pumping techniques are used to remove the oil from subsurface reserves that we use on a daily basis. Heavy oil cannot flow on its own, thus it must be extracted using oil sands mining, SOG, and CS technologies. China's oil extraction technology is mostly focused on the oil reserves on land, since China just recently came into touch with oil extraction technology. The equipment used in China's oil extraction is frequently imported from other countries. More significantly, China's oil fields are quite deeply submerged. Furthermore, due to China's difficult geography, it will be highly expensive to utilize this oil deposit. It is said that China pays us $45 per barrel for oil extraction. The price of extracting this oil is 4 times higher than in the US. It is clear that China made a prudent decision to forego developing its own oil reserve. As a result, the United States has welcomed China's strategy since it allows China to increase its oil earnings. However, South Korea's technology for oil extraction is subpar. Why did China pick South Korea instead of the United States, which has superior oil extraction technology? The conflict of interests is the main justification for China's refusal to permit the United States to use its oil resources. Let the Americans profit from this oil field and they will keep 70s of the money. China, which lacks oil, will undoubtedly disagree with this choice. The second is that oil field transactions must be conducted in dollars according to US law. We all know that China has long wished for the yuan to replace the dollar as the world's reserve currency. China cannot possibly agree to this decision since it is being slapped in the face by the United States with this request. China was ultimately denied access to American oil extraction technology by the United States. China was utterly irritated by the American demands. As a result, China firmly rejected the United States and began seeking out new allies across the globe. China's major motivation in allowing South Korea to use this oil resource is to establish a cooperative economic relationship with South Korea. China has traditionally received premium electronics from Samsung of South Korea, including televisions and displays for mobile phones. The only technological business in the world that combines semiconductor rod production and packaging is Samsung. An agreement between China and South Korea on oil exploration commerce can not only address China's energy scarcity issue, but also strengthen bilateral ties between the two countries. This has somewhat benefited the economies, politics, and trade of the two nations. Second, while not being particularly advanced, South Korea's offshore oil extraction technology is superior to China's. China can get knowledge about South Korea's offshore oil field extraction technologies through this partnership. China is now advancing in the path of energy power, and in the future it will unavoidably take over as the world's energy power. Only technology advancements have the potential to underpin China's development. As a result, China gave South Korea the rights to utilize the oil reserves found in the South China Sea. One goal is to boost China's oil reserves, and the other is to indirectly teach China about South Korea's mining technologies. What do you think of China giving South Korea mining rights? I don't know, my buddies. Click on these videos to watch other amazing videos.